Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. My mother-in-law did not like me at all since the start, and God knows for what reasons. My husband was the only son of his parents and had never moved out of their house. He had been in relationships before me, but had never moved in with any of the girlfriends. When we started dating, I noticed that he never even talked about moving in together. When I suggested one day to move in together, he asked me if it was okay for me to move into his parents' house, as there was no other option. I asked him why we could not rent a place and move in together, to which he replied that he did not want to leave his parents all alone. I did not talk about moving in after that, as I was scared to stay under his parents' supervision. My parents are very friendly and open-minded people, whilst his family seemed a bit old school, so I was never ready to move into his parents' house. When I landed a 9-to-5 job, it created a gap between us as I got busy and did not even get time to talk to him over the phone. We would only see each other on weekends, and it was, of course, not enough. We both felt like we were drifting apart, but as we had an amazing understanding, we wanted to keep our relationship intact. And once again, there was only one way, and it was to move in with his parents. I told him that I was ready to move in, and of course, he was glad to know that. He got the upper story cleaned as we were moving in there, and then I shifted within a week. My mother-in-law was very sweet at the start, but it started changing in a week only. I came back from the office one day and my mother-in-law asked if I could prepare dinner for everyone as she was not feeling well. I said yes in courtesy and prepared dinner even when I was hell tired and needed to rest. That did not end there. My father-in-law told me that the food I prepared was tasty and I should cook often. My mother-in-law started telling me to cook every other day, and I was, of course, done. I told my husband the whole situation, and he said that I should tell my mother-in-law to do the laundry, and that would automatically divide the house chores. I told him that we had shifted to the upper story as a separate family, so we are not supposed to divide anything and take care of our portions separately. I brought dirty clothes downstairs before going to the office and told my mother-in-law to wash them when she was going to do the laundry. When I came back from the office, she told me that she had already put my washed clothes in my closet. When I had to change, I opened the closet and found my shirts ripped. I rushed downstairs to ask my mother-in-law what had gone wrong. And she told me that my clothes got stuck in the washing machine and she forgot to inform me. So much happened in addition to that, and I told my husband that either I was moving out or I was breaking up because I could not stay there. We moved out after a while and then got married shortly after that, as things had turned to be smooth between us. My mother-in-law could not digest that we had gone separate spaces and were married. She kept looking for reasons to come and stay with us. Once she came and told my husband that she missed him, and as it was the first time he moved out, she had nightmares. My husband told her that she could stay with us for a few days, and of course she won. Only in a few days did my mother-in-law do her best to control everything and take charge. She would clean the whole house every day and then would call me messy and irresponsible. She would criticize the food that I would cook. She turned the whole house upside down when she saw our electricity bill and told us that we were wasting everything. I told my husband that she could not stay with us. I had invited my mom for dinner on the following weekend, and she just got a chance to mess up. We were having dinner when she told my mom that she had not raised me well and that I was spoiled. My mom takes no bullshit and told her that if my mother-in-law was staying at my place, that meant I was raised well because no one else would tolerate her presence. My mother-in-law started yelling and even spilled a glass of water on my mom. I could not stand her anymore and dragged her out of the house. I told her that she could never show up again, and if she did, I was going to call the cops. Now, my mother-in-law called my husband a few days ago and told him that his cousin was coming from her town as she had taken admission to a university. My mother-in-law told my husband that she was going to stay at our place until she could arrange for a space in a hostel. I called my mother-in-law and asked her why she could not stay at their place, to which she replies that we live closer to her university, so our place was a better option. My husband says that he has no problem with it, as it is just a matter of a few days, but I am not easy at all. I know my mother-in-law cannot see us living happily out of her control, and it seems like she is sending an agent. I'm just overthinking, or there is literally a red flag? As suggested by you guys, I told my mother-in-law that she could tell her niece to look for a hostel room and then move to the city. But my mother-in-law said that her classes were starting soon and she could not wait. My husband comes back earlier from his office than I, and I'm not comfortable with the idea that they are going to stay alone until I get back from the office. Also, she's not going to be any less than a spy. I talked to my husband and shared my concerns, but he said I was just overthinking as his cousin was only staying for a couple of days until she could move to a hostel. As no one was ready to listen to me, I took that cousin's number from my husband's phone and texted her that she was not welcome at my place. I told her that she should be sensible and arrange a space for her before moving to the city. My husband's cousin told my mother-in-law about my text, and she, of course, created a scene. My husband told me that I was just wasting my time and thinking too much. So his cousin arrived 3 days ago and she is way too friendly. I mean, she gets really very frank with my husband and keeps talking about their childhood memories. My husband is almost 7 years older than her and she told us that she had a crush on him when she was younger. Also, she gets very touchy with him. I came back from the office yesterday and they were sitting in the lounge watching some comedy show and laughing out loud. I asked them if they had prepared anything for dinner, and my husband told me that they had pizza and were not hungry at all, so I could cook something for myself. I was furious and went to sleep without having dinner. Today, in the morning, we had a huge argument, and my husband told me that I was too insecure and was imagining things as his cousin is just a kid. So I stopped getting bothered by whatever that cousin was doing around and chose to trust my husband. Also, it was consuming my energy and I had to stop thinking about her all the time. Yesterday, my husband texted me saying, "Thank you for the lunch," he found in his bag and told me that he loved me too. I was startled and told him that I had packed no lunch for him. I then asked him if he could send me the photo of the note attached to the lunchbox. When my husband sent me the photo, I called him and asked him if he had stopped recognizing my handwriting. I knew who had done that. I went home and told my husband's cousin that she was getting out right away. I took her stuff and threw it out of the house and then dragged her out too. I then started packing my husband's stuff as I knew she was going to call him. When my husband arrived home, I took his stuff and threw it out of the house too without letting him in. I told him that they could live happily ever after at my in-laws' place. They left at that time, but my husband has been calling me since yesterday. My husband kept texting me and telling me that he had no idea what was going on. He then came home and stayed at the door until I opened it for him. He told me that I was blaming him for nothing as he had no idea what his cousin thought of him. I was angry and asked him if he was a kid or blind, as she was giving clear signs that she was interested. My husband apologized and told me that he was never going to let her allow in our house as my mother-in-law still wanted to send her back. My mother-in-law called me and told me that I had embarrassed her in front of her sister by kicking her niece out like that. She also said that I was accusing her niece of something that she could not even think about. I told her that she could say whatever she wanted to, but her niece was never coming back and she could do whatever she had to do. NTA, OP's concerns were valid and she was not at all imagining things. OP's husband should have supported her, as it literally seemed like OP's mother-in-law was sending an agent as she could no more control their lives. OP had to take a stand and ban her husband's cousin even before she arrived. OP's mother-in-law and her niece were the a-holes and God knows what their agenda was. The husband's cousin was clearly interested in him and was trying hard to get space while mother-in-law seemed to be at her back. I cannot believe both of them were that senseless and even tried to play such a sick game. When I, 28 female, was 18, I had to give birth to my daughter Farah. No choice for me. I wanted to give her up for adoption, but Dave, her dad, was able to take her. In exchange for giving him full custody, we settled on me not paying any child support. I did not give up my parental rights. I thought I did what was best for me at the time. It left me focused on getting my degree, have fun, and start my own business, which has become wildly successful. When not studying or working or clubbing, however, I was very depressed and wound up torpedoing every relationship I was in, and it's all because I regretted my decision. Last year, my dad died and I inherited almost everything. This has pushed my personal wealth into 8 figures when you add up property and stuff. It just made me more depressed because I never got to fix things with my dad. And it's like I have all this, but for what? So I finally decided to be brave and reach out to Dave because maybe if I could have Farah in my life, I could be happy. Dave set up a meeting last year, and as soon as Farah saw me, she rushed at me and hugged me and called me mommy. It was amazing, and I honestly started crying. It has been so great since then, getting to know her, pick her up from school, hear about her day, help with homework, get to hug and kiss her. Even getting yelled at by her when she's upset is something I wouldn't give up. And I hate that I wasn't part of this before. It's like I have a real purpose and all this money finally means something. I don't try and flex my wealth on Dave or his wife Lydia, but they've made remarks about how cool Farah thinks my car is or how I have a cleaning lady. But I never bought anything for her without clearing with them first. In exchange for visitation, I have paid back child support and I'm paying it now to have her in my life. We currently have a meeting to restructure the custody agreement so that I can get her on weekends. Yesterday was Farah's birthday, and the party is on Saturday, but as a surprise, I got her one of those toy Jeeps the kids ride around the block in and a full street hockey setup, and those are the first gifts I didn't clear. She loved those so much, but Dave and Lydia got upset. But I was like, if we're restructuring the custody, I shouldn't need approval to buy things anymore. Lydia pointed out how expensive it all was and called me an a-hole for using money to win Farah's love instead of putting in hard work like she has. What she said has been troubling me, and maybe I have been like that, so I'm here to get an anonymous judgment. YTA, suddenly changing things and buying her lavish gifts without discussion when that's not the precedent that's been set shows. And of course, you admit in the title that you are trying to buy your daughter's love instead of earning your place in her life. You chose not to be her mother. Had it not been for her dad taking her rather than her being put up for adoption as you wanted, you wouldn't have an option to be doing this right now at all, as you'd have zero parental rights whatsoever. Show some respect for the people who put 10 years of time, love, hard work, and money into raising their child while you set her aside only to come pick her back up when you felt it was convenient. I don't think a-hole is the right word, really, but I do completely see Dave and his wife's point of view. You didn't raise her, they did, and now you're stepping in after 10 years and playing the superhero with wealth. They never got to accumulate money because they were taking care of a baby. It must suck for them. Although it seems like you're doing everything right by back paying child support, clearing gifts with them, etc., a classy move would be next time to have the big expensive birthday, Christmas gift be from all three parents, and each of you get her something small and affordable from you personally. I will also say that this little girl is going to be a teenager very soon and is going to start to establish a sense of who she is and where she came from. And with that, she's going to start to question who you are and where you were for 10 years. I would advise getting into family therapy with your ex and his wife, you and your daughter, to help her work through the next few years as she grapples with the perfectly normal abandonment, resentment issues that may come up. And good luck. I'm a 25-year-old female and I have pretty significant scarring on both of my arms and legs. The scars are over a decade old, but they didn't fade well. I'm pretty used to covering them up for work and other situations, but I've gotten to a point where I no longer feel a sense of shame when I'm wearing clothes that show them. This has taken a lot of work on my end, and I'm well aware that not everybody knows how to react in a way that isn't hurtful. And that's okay, I can manage. My boyfriend of 10 months invited me to go with him to his family's pool party, cookout. I've met his parents a few times before, and they have seen some of the scars and didn't say anything. However, his other siblings and their families, who I have not met before, were going to be there. I still was looking forward to meeting everyone because his parents are lovely people. At the party, I wore shorts and a tank top, which was modest considering that it was well over 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Also considering that I was wearing more clothes than anyone in a swimsuit. I mostly kept to myself and talked to my boyfriend's mom while he played with his nieces and nephews. He doesn't see them very much. After a while, his mom went inside, and his sister approached me. After a couple of minutes of conversation, of her asking about the scars, yes, she led with that, she told me that she doesn't want her kids, 11 female and 5 male, to see all that. Talking about my scars, because they're quite young. She asked me if I had brought a jacket or something to cover up with, and I told her that I didn't because of how hot it was. She offered to let me borrow a shirt from her parents, and I said I would rather leave if I'm offending everyone. She huffed and signaled my boyfriend to us and asked him the same thing, if he had something that I could wear to cover up with. He said that I was fine and said that she was being ridiculous. She said that she and her kids would leave if that were the case, which attracted the attention of their dad, who, after hearing both sides, told them both to let it go. The whole thing was really embarrassing, and his sister was passive-aggressive to my boyfriend and I the remainder of the time that we were there. We ended up leaving early. I asked him to drop me off at my place, even though we had plans to watch a movie together at his apartment afterward. He apologized for his sister and said that she was a bitch for what she said, but honestly, I'm not sure if I was right for digging my heels in. But it was very hot outside and I was already feeling overheated, so I would have been miserable had I put on a jacket or another shirt. But this was the first time that I was meeting a lot of people there. AITA? NTA. If her kids asked about your scars, she could have said, lots of people get scars, but it's not polite to talk about others' bodies. Of course, she wouldn't know to do that because she has no idea how to follow that rule and effectively parent her children. You did nothing wrong. She should be ashamed of herself. NTA, you deserve basic respect, and your scars will not harm children. I'm proud of you for sticking to your guns.